it's important to sort of understand where the theme came from for a second and why we thought it was important. And we noticed when we did our in-person conference, the questions that individuals were having in the room around sort of what does COVID now mean for my business and who am I in my business? And now that I've experienced this pretty big life quake, what does that mean for me? And so there's a lot more questions, I think, that were coming forward around not only just who am I and how do I walk in this world, and especially with everything that has happened, but what does this mean for my business? And so identity, both in businesses and in sort of how we live to our core gifts, the things that we are really meant to, our reason for being. It felt very important because it's not only what we're trying to question in ourselves, but it's also how we support people in coaching, their reason for being or any particular change. So this just felt like a very relevant theme. And so as a program designer, we are looking or we're looking for presenters and continue to look for presenters who have incredibly strong identities within their business. It's like, oh, I know this particular type of person or this particular type of business, and you really want to go and meet this authentic coach. I just had a beautiful podcast experience with Maddox, who is here. And if you haven't had a chance to join his authenticity podcast, Maddox is one person of our community that strikes me as an individual who embodies being who he is within his business. So we're exploring all of that and hope you can bring your full selves to the table and not have to leave any piece of you at home. That is the goal. And that's why we thought identity was important for this year.
Thanks, Pete. So yeah, that's our theme, and as I said before, we're so happy with how many people have really responded to this theme. So hopefully we made a good call in going for this. We listened to you guys, and you've responded really in spades really. So it's great that you're to have so many great sessions we can put on for you. So I am going to have a little chat now with Damien Goldvarg. How are you doing, Damien?
Doing great. Great to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you're going to be presenting for us again at the virtual conference.
Great. Hayden, and by the way, today, for people who do not know, I used to be the global president of International Coach Federation. So I'm very familiar with everything that's going on in that world. And today they make an announcement about the new credential for team coaching. So this is what I'm going to be talking at during the conference, is this new trend in coaching, in team coaching, because so far the credentials have been only individual credentials, and now today they make the announcement of team coaching credential, and that is going to be an opportunity for people who work in organizations. And I do believe that organizations are also realizing the importance that when they want to invest in coaching, sometimes it's not only the leader that they need to invest, but the teams, because at the end of the day, the teams are the ones who produce the results. So it's not only providing coaching to the leader, but also to providing coaching to the teams in the organization. So I want to share in the chat room, the chat came up today, the new guidance and I know here in this community, we have coaches, we have people who are interested in becoming coaches. We have people who may or may not follow standards from International Coach Federation. So here we have, it's a very, we have people coming from many different places. But for the people who are interested in the International Coach Federation, in credentials, in new trends, what I'm going to be doing in the session is talking about the 8 team coaching core competencies. And I'm going to be explaining what is this model, how to coach teams in organization following the International Coach Federation model. So for people who are interested in teams, I'm going to be covering that. So this is going to be what I'm going to be doing. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm very passionate about coaching, and I have been presenting in the past in a few conferences over the years. So I'm looking forward to make this session interactive, and we learn from each other. I think that these small groups, dialogues, and conversations are really rich. So we will have that too. And I don't know if we want to open also for questions. So basically, I share what I'm going to be talking about. It's going to be 1 hour. It's team coaching, not group coaching. there is a difference between group coaching and team coaching. Group coaching is when you have a group of people who everyone is bringing their own issues, and the group coach each person on their own unique goals, and the group supports the person in accomplishing the goals. And in team coaching, the whole team has a goal. So when we're coaching a team, we need to assess what are the strengths, what are the areas for development for the team, and from there provide learning opportunities for the team to grow and learn and be more effective. So I just want to make that distinction, because Peter, we will need to change the title of the session. It's team coaching and not group coaching.
Yeah, we'll do that, Damien. Thank you for explaining the difference, because not everybody understands the difference between the two. So yeah, we will certainly be doing that. So yeah. So what would be really great as well is because you've been a part of GCA for quite a long time now. So what was it that originally led you to become part of GCA?
Well, I went to one of the conferences. I think that the first time it was one of the conferences. Yeah, that's the way that the second conference a few years ago. And I had a great experience, and then I got engaged and offered the possibility to do coaching training. So we have the first sponsored by GCA coaching training. And I think these are the first or only coaching GACE program in the world that I know of, and we had 2 cohorts. Some of the graduates are here. Good to see you here again. And so I have been involved, and they're doing wonderful work in the world. So I'm very happy to be part of this community.
And just reflecting on your session, there'll be lots of takeaways that people get from attending your session. If you were to pick out maybe 1 or 2 things that you want participants to take away from the experience of working with you in January, what might that be?
Well, I want people to be more familiar with this model, because it's brand new. So most people just came up. So people are not familiar with it. So I want to bring some information that can be helpful to you. And for some people who are working with individuals, they may be interested in starting working with teams. So to bring that opportunity, the team coaching is really very interesting. It's complex. Sometimes it requires more than one person to work with teams. So we do a lot of work with a co-coach. And so by the end of the session, people are going to be more familiar with what is team coaching, how it works, and maybe consider the possibility to start doing that work.
And lastly, I just wanted to ask you, what is the connection that you see, between your session and our overall theme around identity?
Well, it's interesting, because when I was listening, I was wondering, I should have been presenting on a different topic, because one of the topic that I have my specialty is supervision. And coaching supervision is all about identity and looking at the being. So I should have taught this program, and supervision would have been more appropriate for this program. But I do believe that you as a coach, individually or as a team coach, you still bring yourself, and you still bring your identity. And particularly if you're working with different groups in the part of the team, maybe some of the team members that you're working with may be homophobic. So what do? How do you bring your identity when you're working with teams and you don't know who are going to be the members of this team, what are the characteristics of the organization? So I think that can bring an interesting place to explore.
Yeah, I suppose our identity might be a little bit different potentially in working with in that setting, in a team setting, compared to being one-on-one with the clients as well. That could potentially be different.
Yeah. And how you are aware, we had a really great discussion in our triad before, and we're talking about self-acceptance and not being apologetic, and how we are showing up in our work. And with teams, it's also we need to choose how we're going to be showing up, what we are going to say about that. So for example, for me, part of my identity is being gay, and another part is that I have an accent. So for many years, I was very apologetic about my accent. So I was showing up like insecure, and then part of accepting myself is accepting, okay, I have an accent, and I know I need to speak slower so people can follow me, but I don't need to apologize any longer for having an accent. So when I was apologetic, the way that I was showing up was very different than when you accept yourself with whatever it is in your way. It can be different things for different people. So whatever it is for us is how we embrace that and bring it to our work.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us today to tell us some more about the session. We're so excited. We're looking, it's such a growth area, isn't it, team coaching? So we're all going to take so much from it, and very timely with it now being part of the ICF framework in the way it is now. So thank you so much. And I know you need to jump off. You've got a session.
Yes, I have another call. I'm looking forward to the conference, looking forward also to the in-person conference. So I want to invite everybody to consider coming. As I shared before, that was my first approach through a conference, and it really made a big difference, because we know it's not the same virtually that in person. So this is the opportunity to embrace, to be in person, to connect. So I highly recommend to everybody to consider coming in person, and I'm planning to be there, and I also permitting to discuss what I'm going to be doing, but I will be working with you. Looking forward to that.
Brilliant. Thanks, Damien.
Thanks, Damien.
Bye.
Thanks so much, Damien.
Bye, take care.
Excellent.
Pass to you.
Awesome. Yeah. And you know, what teams don't need identity work too, right? It's like, who are they? And what brings them together and what aligns them? So good stuff there. So now I would like to have a conversation with Bach Ho, who is going to be joining us also for our virtual conference. Bach, how are you today?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Good. Doing good. So why don't we start actually with one of Chris's opening questions? What brought you to the GCA?
Wanted to connect with gay coaches. Very simple short story. Wanted to connect with gay coaches. Googled it. Your guys' website looked very friendly and inviting, so I applied to join.
Awesome. And why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself and sort of what you do or the work that you do today?
I work for an organization called Organic Intelligence, and it's an approach to healing and growth that is somatic. I'm trained in it to coach in it. I also work on the theoretical end, writing on it and trying to bring it into the academy. I used to be I still am kind of a philosophy professor, but my interest in organic intelligence is very strong, so I'm moving toward that direction.
Yeah. And for those who perhaps have never touched on organic intelligence, is there sort of a nutshell sort of sentence as to what it is or what that means?
Yes. Allow me a few moments of silence.
Oh, you take your time.
The optimal way to grow, according to organic intelligence, is through comfort and pleasure, as opposed to discomfort. That would be the one sentence.
And this, my friends, is actually what was most curious to me in bringing Bach in, because it's a very interesting and unique perspective. How many times as coaches are we told to challenge, to provoke, to create? Growth happens on the edge of discomfort. When I had this conversation with Bach, and he was like, growth happens in comfort too, you know. And I was like, yeah, it sure does. And so this perspective is actually very unique and very interesting. And so we wanted to bring it to the table. Bach, what do you think people will, feel free to name your session, and what do you think people will experience in joining this and sort of understanding this perspective?
Let me start with something that's pretty obvious, and then I'll try to go to something that may pique your interest. So one obvious idea that we all know is you're different when you're comfortable than when you're uncomfortable. So if you're having a session and you have low back pain, you just got your heart broken, you didn't sleep well, that you'll be different than if you slept well, your life is doing great. So that's pretty clear. We're different when we're comfortable as opposed to uncomfortable. with that as the base, the aim of this workshop is to introduce the idea that what comfort feels like, what true comfort in the body feels like, may actually be quite different from what you already have a sense of. And I don't mean to be like aggressive at that point, but you may have a sense of what being comfortable feels like, but I'm hoping that through the experiential work in that session, you may be able to access a far deeper level of comfort. And if I'm successful in getting you to feel that deeper level of comfort, I'm hoping your interest will be piqued in nurturing that level of comfort more in yourself for the remainder of life and operating from that position in your coaching. And I suspect that your results will be profoundly greater if you're profoundly more comfortable.
Yeah, speaks to the trust piece of what we try to build in the rapport piece, and it's really curious.
I would be interested in leading the group in 2 15-second exercises. If you're down with that,
I'm not going to mix that. I'm not going to mix it. Go for it. Let's be experiential.
So is the group in general? I'll just assume they're open to it. Okay, so I'll try to be all right, because I think that experiencing will be better than just verbal lecturing. So there'll be 2 exercises. The first one is just foundational for the second one. Okay, it's the second one is what's most important. I would like you to choose something in your room or wherever you are, choose something to look at and look at it. Please start now, and then I'll say something when I want you to stop. Now, the next exercise, this is the one that really matters, but please listen to my instructions as carefully as you can, okay? You're going to do the same thing in some sense. You're going to look at something in your room or wherever you are. The difference here now is that you're not going to choose with your mind what to look at. Instead, you're going to try as comfortably and as hard as you can to not decide what to look at. Instead, you're going to let your eyes go where they want to go. They may go to the same object as before. They may go to a different object. They may stay on that object for the full 15 seconds, or you may feel that your eyes want to look around. And if your eyes want to look around, it may involve your head, neck, and shoulders moving also. So that's this second exercise. To repeat, you're going to let your eyes go where they want to go, as opposed to choosing what to look at. Let's try it out, and I'll tell you when to stop. Okay, thank you. So, and Peter, if it's okay with you, I'm interested to report, if anyone's willing to volunteer, what you oriented, or what you looked at, and what was your experience. And I would love just unfiltered. So it could be this is boring. What was the point box? So full range of experience, which is fine. But I'm very curious what your experience was, if you'd like to share in chat, or Peter, if you're open to it, if they can just share verbally.
Yeah, they can share verbally.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. We got some time. Take your time.
Yeah.
I'll jump in. I have a really cool Brazilian breastplate that was given to me by my partner many years ago. And so that was the first focus. But on that same wall, when I just started letting the eyes go, I have a lot of different pieces and objects. And it really hit me for the first time how many memories of people in my life that wall had, of different periods in my life, and just sort of, it really expanded. It's like, wow, there's a lot of people that have been part of my life, and it's really cool to think of that and have that wall represent it.
I'd like to, oh, can I jump in as well, Bob? Yeah, I'm in I'm performing right now in a theater production, and I have two vases with flowers in front of me. And the first one that I looked at was some yellow roses off to my left. It's just bright and vibrant, and as you can tell, I really like yellow. And then the second time, my eyes traced to the second one, and these are flowers that a member of the body electric community gave me just a few nights ago. They're not as pretty. They're kind of green and look like broccoli, but it's variegated, and and all of a sudden I just felt this surge of tears and emotion. And I was really, I wouldn't have expected that my eyes would have gone there.
I really appreciate the sharings verbally and in chat. Had we more time, I would want to say a lot more and interact with all of you about what you've observed. But let me, so that's too bad that we can't do it. But let me make a general point. That second exercise was a form of letting your biology connect automatically to the immediate environment around you. And that process is called orientation. And orientation is a natural and default impulse of the biology. Your biology wants to map the environment to assess for safety. How easy it is for your biology to do that, to orient, is the primary marker for comfort. That is the biological baseline. Because if your system can orient, that means that the interior is not too intense. The interior thoughts, the interior sensations and emotions are not too intense. So orientation competes against interior intensity.
And we're going to leave you with a cliffhanger note there. And so and so Buck, I want you to sort of show, I'm interested. I'm like, wait, I want to know more. But one final thing, sort of that one piece that you think your folks will take away before we move to our next presenter.
So, okay, I'll be quick. So I hope that the one takeaway from the workshop will be that you may start believing it's possible to grow without getting out of your comfort zone, which I know is a very countercultural statement, but that's the hope of the workshop.
Fascinating. Mark, thank you, my friend. It is really, really curious. Really appreciate that time and how nice it has. And by the way, as a community, we want to be experiential. You know, we're guiding, we're working with people all the time, and some of us struggle to often think and maybe even learn when we're not moving or when there isn't movement within us or there's a sense of creativity in play. So just know that our workshops try to balance, even though it's online and it's hard, that notion of learning and development, but also creativity and play and movement as well to try and learn. So appreciate, that was fantastic. Chris, back to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Pete. Thank you. So I'm going to have a chat now with Brian Gorman. So Brian has presented at our conferences quite a number of times now, both in person and virtual. And I always love attending Brian's sessions. There's always something completely different that he does for us each time. And there's just something like warm and cozy and a feeling of knowing that I'm going into one of Brian's sessions. And I think even more so knowing what your topic is for this time, because you're going to be talking about storytelling, aren't you, this time, Brian?
I am, and I'd like to start with a story.
Go for it.
Back in the early days of the human race, we told stories. We told them by drawing them in the dirt and on animal hides and cave walls. And we told stories long before we had language. And when we got language, we continued to tell stories. We told stories to pass down traditions and to talk about the future and to plan our day's activities. Stories have been with us longer than language. And what we now know is that as much as we like to talk about thinking logically and acting logically, the human brain is a story processor, not a logic processor. So this workshop is going to be about story. It's going to be about the little stories in our lives and the little stories in our clients' lives and the big stories and how we use stories, not just to change our clients' lives, but to change our own.
Fantastic. And what was it that inspired you to come up with this session for us?
Chris, you know, I really have made a commitment as an elder in this community to do everything I can to share the wisdom that I gain along the way. And as Jeff Nally and I were preparing for the Institute for the in-person conference that didn't happen, I really got engaged in a deeper understanding of story. And now's the time to share that.
Yeah. It's the power, isn't it, of story, and as you say, it's how our brains work. We work on stories, and we don't always stop to actually realize the importance of stories, both our own story and the story of our clients. So I'm seeing the link there, you know, one link of many to our theme around identity.
Absolutely. In December of 2020, I did a TEDx, and it really was my story. And how my life evolved from this introverted, closeted freshman at Syracuse University to who I am today. And in that TEDx, I quote, and I don't remember her name, but a psychologist who did a TED Talk. And the quote is, if you change your story, you can change your life. And that can be a little story like, I'm not worthy, or one of my stories that I haven't changed is I can't learn foreign languages. That's a story. I believe it. If I change that story, I'm sure I could learn language.
So powerful. Yeah, I had a big story change moment at Eastern Mountain this year, as everyone who knows unlocked a big story change, and it's the work that we do, the gift that we have, been able to create that for people, and how profoundly it changes your life, just shifting that story and that belief that we have about ourselves. So I'm really interested for you to share, because we've known each other for quite a long time. What was it that brought you to GCA originally, Brian?
Well, it's interesting. I've had as a coach, and I still do, even though he's virtually retired now, one of the founders of GCA, Michael Cohen. And Michael came to me one day and said, the GCA and Eastern Mountain are co-sponsoring a training for gay men who are interested in becoming coaches. It's being taught by Damien Goldvarg, former two-time past president of the ICF Board of Directors. You may not want to be a coach, but I think you'd really enjoy the company of the men who are participating. And the first day in person at Eastern Mountain, I had one of those story changes, Chris, that this is what I've been preparing my whole life to do. So came out of that conference in I think it was 2016, and about a month later was back up at Eastern Mountain for the GCA conference. Met Gary and some of the other men here, and the story's still going.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. So just bringing back to the session that you're going to do for us in a few weeks' time at the virtual conference. Of all the many things that people will take away from your session, what's the one thing that you most want people to take away from it?
The one thing is about the power of story and how to change story, but we're actually going to look at that from a couple of different perspectives. So it's those little stories, those gremlins that we carry, that our clients carry. What is a process for actually changing that story, turning that gremlin into a guru? And then on the other end of that are those big stories. How do we create for ourselves, or work with our clients to create a story that can actually literally transform your life?
Thank you so much for taking us through and giving us a preview. I can't wait. As I said before, I'm a big fan. I always love your sessions, and so thank you for sharing, and thank you again for contributing so much as you always do to our community, Brian. And, you know, putting your time forward to be a presenter. We really so much appreciate it. And we'll
Thank you, Chris.
in a few weeks' time. So I'm going to hand back to Pete.
Excellent. So as you can see already, 3 very different offerings, 3 very different identities, 3 very different ways of sort of showing up and ideas and thoughts, and all of them beautifully their own. And now we go to our last one of today, but obviously not the only one that will join us at the conference, who is beautifully himself always, Mr. Jim Cartwright. I'm thrilled to have you join us here, Jim, and would love to well, I'm going to hand it to you. Where would you like to start as we explore your offering today?
Well, hey, and I'm happy to be here too. Internet is working pretty well, so I will just say any freezes have been brief. If I freeze, I invite you to savor a frozen moment. I'll just start by talking a little bit about what my talk will be, and then ask me whatever you want. But the talk is called Songs in the Key of Coaching. So really, I've spent the past couple of years going to lots of different coaches from lots of different traditions, some ICF, some not, going to coaching school, which I'm on the tail end of right now. I have one call left with Will, who might be here or might have left. And after that, it's the, you know, the process of the call and the exams and all that. So I'm a baby coach that way. But all along the way, I've been writing lots of songs that basically connected to my learnings, being coached, and learnings that I want to bring forward in coaching. So that's the bulk of it. The presentation really is going to have 2 parts. Most of it is going to be songs and explaining how does this song relate to coaching as I see it. I'm also going to share a couple of vocal-based self-care practices that I use to come into presence to get ready to coach. But why don't I just sing a song? So I'm thinking I picked one of the shorter songs from the presentation so that you would just get a taste of it. The context for this, and there's going to be songs coming from all over the place, but this branch of it is a group of songs I wrote, kind of, I guess you could say, inspired by internal family systems therapies, but the idea of the different inner voices that we have in our minds. I mean, I think inner critic, inner child, we hear about a lot of that kind of stuff in the coaching world. So I wrote a series of songs, love songs, essentially, most of them written like from my intuitive self to the inner child, or from my intuitive self to the inner critic. This one I'm going to sing is a slightly different framework, but because instead of just my intuitive self, I created a character. So when I was digging around inside my psyche, looking for the inner child, I first came across the inner teen. So this is a song for my inner teen, but instead of being just intuitive self to inner teen, the metaphorical framework is I created an older gay brother that I never really had, and wrote a love song from my imaginary older gay brother to my teenage self. Does that make sense? Okay, so it's called Wild Child. Let me be the one you tell your secrets to. Let me hold you, let me stroke your long brown hair. I'm here for you, I'll be a listening ear. I won't judge anything you say. I'm not our dad, and you don't scare me. Hey, I know the world doesn't always feel safe. Little brother, wild child, yearning for your freedom. I see the dear heart in your eyes. Little brother, wild child, feeling lost and strange like an outsider. Let's chill together and hang out for a long, long while. I'm sorry that I haven't always been here for you. I got lost inside the worries in my mind. I hope you know that I have always loved you, and I'm cool with your fantasies about guys. Hey, I'm gay dude. I'll help you find your place in the world. When you're with me, you won't have to hide or lie. Little brother, wild child, yearning for your freedom. I see the dear heart in your eyes. Little brother, wild child, feeling lost and strange like an outsider. Let's chill together and hang out for a long, long while. Let's chill together and hang out. Chill together and hang out. Chill together and hang out for a long, long while. So that's a sample of how I bring music into my approach with stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jim, I want to acknowledge first the courage it takes to sing a cappella in front of a group. It's amazing that you will bring yourself, and this is why I think it's so powerful when we talk about identity. How do you find what is truly you and bring it to your coaching practice? We all know that creativity is a huge part of that. Jim, what are you hoping people will take away primarily from their time within your session?
My biggest hope is really a sense of possibility of incorporating creative modalities into coaching, whether that's as the coach or the person being coached. And it might be somebody's languagey, like me, you know, with song lyrics or poetry, or it could be dance, it could be drawing. But a lot of the coaching that I have received has been very, very beneficial and primarily cognitive, very cognitive, very thinky. And that's very valuable. But I also think there's a lot of value in inviting creative expression and creative modalities into coaching.
Awesome. Jim, thank you so much. And it's so amazing, I think, when we think about, I mean, I'm going to link both storytelling to the music. I think that the getting into sort of some creative spirit with coaching can be really powerful. When I listened first to the Radiohead song, "I'm a Creep and a Weirdo, what the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here." And, you know, we all know those lyrics. I remember swiftly changing those lyrics into my late 20s to "I'm unique. I'm special. I know what I'm doing here and I belong here." And every time I heard that song, I would repeat those lyrics to myself to the same tune. I think it's very powerful what you're doing. I think we haven't seen anything like it. I'm super thrilled to have you. We're super thrilled to have you to bring that to us. And Jim, thank you. Any closing words before we come to a little bit of a wrap up or a Q&A?
Nah, we'll get more deeper into it when we're all together for the weekend. But I'm very grateful for this community and thankful to be welcomed into it. And so thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. Chris.
Wow.
Anything else before we wrap?
Yeah, well, I think we've managed to pack quite a lot, haven't we, into almost 90 minutes there.
Just a bit.
I hope we've achieved our intention of whetting your appetite for our January conference. From the conversations that we've had, those 4 conversations with the presenters, I got even more than I expected we were going to get. And you know, the quality, the diversity, the richness of what people are going to be delivering in January is absolutely awesome. So we can't wait to welcome you along to the event in January. So I'm going to stick in the chat box one more time the link to the conference if you've not seen that yet. So please register, please come along. But I'm going to just go back to kind of a Christmassy moment, because, you know, this is the last time that we're going to meet before Christmas. And so, yeah, can you believe we're almost at the end of 2022? But we started together, didn't we, in our virtual space together in January, and you know we're kind of wrapping up as GCA for this year, for 2022. So I just want to wish everybody an absolutely fantastic Christmas, an absolutely fantastic holiday season, lots of hugs with those new partners. Not jealous at all, the fact that you guys got new husbands and new boyfriends. Find one for me, will you please? Thank you for joining us.
So today. I could play a track of music, but given that we have someone so musically acclaimed here, I made a special request of Jim to close us out with a Christmas song. So we send you all happy holidays from the GCA. Get in touch with myself and Chris, he said, if you have any questions. Do we have any really important Q&As before we close out? Anything that you have to ask? Yes, Matt, go ahead.
I've got more an announcement just for everyone. There is a monthly call in January, a week or so before the conference, and we're hoping to have a panel discussion on podcasting, both being on and giving. So we've got some people lined up already, but if there's anyone who should be on that panel, then please get in touch with me or Alan or Will. Thank you, and looking forward to that.
Awesome. Any other questions? And Chris and I can also stay on just after the fact if there's anything pertinent. Any other really important questions anyone's starting to ask before we close? Wonderful. All right, Jim, sing us out.
All right, I tweaked Rudolph for the gay male coaches. So live from an office in San Francisco State where people might be hearing me. Gay Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose, and if you ever saw it, you would even say it glows. All the homophobic reindeer used to laugh and call him names. They never let sweet Rudolph join in any reindeer games. Then one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you help me shift my mindset tonight? Then how the reindeers loved him, and they shouted out with glee, you've inspired a change in us and Santa. Now he'll cut the reins and set you free. Fly free, gay Rudolph. I wanna give you some nose. I wanna give you some head. I wanna give you some toes. Mistletoes, gay Rudolph.
Woo! Merry Christmas, everyone.
Christmas, everybody.
Thank you, Jim. We
Of course.
appreciate you so much. Enjoy your time with family and loved ones, and be well.